Today's lessons is the first lesson we learn the method for financially evaluating project alternatives. So with that, the learning objective is to explain the net present value method in project financial evaluation. We compare project alternative using that method, net present value. We call it NPV. And the related concept about the net present value, that is capitalized cost. So calculate the capitalized cost and conduct capitalized cost comparison of alternatives. Before we go to this lesson, which is net present value, we want to go overview what are the methods we use for the evaluating projects, alternative, different option financially. So in this case, in our class, we have four methods to discuss. The first in the net present value, today lessons. Next lesson, we will talking about the internal rate of return, IRR. Then benefit cost analysis, BC, payback period or break even analysis. And after we go to this four methods here, I will show you how it apply in a local project later on in the future lesson when we talk about the benefit cost analysis. So with that here, let me go to some concept that we want to apply for all method that we use in this lesson and the future lesson when we have that here. So let's go to the slide, net present value. So the few concepts that we want to understand, the first is the MAR. When we compare, we need to know what is MAR. MAR stands for minimum attractive rate of return, MARR. Sometimes people call it minimum acceptable rate of return, MAR also. So what is that about? And you can see for any investment to be profitable, the investor must expect to receive more money than the amount invested. And if you think that only investment in the public project, we also want to see for any investing in any public project, we want to see more benefit than the cost we spend for that project. So it's the same concept. So that MAR basically a fair rate of return, ROR, or return on investment, ROI. So all that is the same concept. So with that, the ROR, rate of return, or return on investment, that is equation very simple. The current amount I receive deduct the amount I invest originally over the original investment times 100%, that is the rate of return. And that minimum amount that everyone have to set, that we have to consider, and that I will explain in the next slide. But what are the term that people use the MAR? Like I say, MAR stands for minimum attractive rate of return or minimum acceptable rate of return, or you can consider the reasonable rate, and in that case also known as the hurdle rate. So any alternative have to be above that hurdle to consider financially viable. So with that, let me explain more in MAR in the next slide. So for the MAR here, so location of MAR relative to other rates of return values. So rate of return, if we have the return on investment of the safe investment, let's see what is the safe investment. Less risky or zero risk. So what does that mean in the US? It means that if you buy the US Treasury bills, the federal government bond, etc., that consider safe. And that the return, it can be only 1% per year. Now it may be very low, so that 1% per year. So safe amount. If you have another project you want to invest, is have some risk, and the return, in this case, the rate of return is 1% or less, you better not do that. You just put the money in the federal treasury bills, bond, with the safer investment, but you get the same return. So that, and you can see the MAR have to be greater than the return, the rate of return of the safe investment. Otherwise, we don't have to do it. I take more risk, then I expect more return. So that MAR have to be, as you can see, have to be above the rate of return on the safe investment. And with that mean all proposal, all option, all alternative, when we offer at least MAR to be considered. Okay, so that when you find out return for any project with some risks, have to be MAR at least or greater than MAR. With that one, when we compare other, we have expect return on a new proposal, and that basically the range rate of return for proposal now acceptable. If all other proposal rejected for some reason, that you have it the range to select an option have to be at least MAR. So that's why we call it minimum attractive rate of return. So that's the concept. So when we prepare with the net present value with the lesson we learned today, or the future lesson, we learn internal rate of return, IRR, benefit cost analysis, or payback period. And that applies for both private investment and public investment. Yield, minimum attractive rate of return. So that, remember that concept in there.